Welcome to the edge of the abyss. Welcome to the warpath of the relentless, the chosen, the forged by fire few. You didn't come here by accident. You were summoned by something deep and dark in your blood, something carved into your DNA before you ever opened your eyes for the first time. You're not like them, and you never were. You were made in the silence of suffering, molded through chaos, and now they tremble. Now they whisper your name with fear, because you just unleashed hell, and they weren't ready. No one ever is. See, this world thinks it can predict the storm, calculate the damage, measure your pain. But you are the storm. You are the aftermath. You are what crawls out of the ruins, smiling, bleeding, still standing. They thought they had you cornered. They thought you would break. But instead, you smiled, you laughed, and you kept walking. Because there's no off switch for a soul that's tasted vengeance and still found hunger. You didn't rise, you detonated. And to those of you who feel that dark pulse in your chest right now, that fire that never dies, you're one of us. You understand what it means to lose everything, to be laughed at, stepped on, betrayed by the ones you trusted, doubted by the ones you protected, and yet you stand, you rise. Not because it's easy, because it's necessary, because the only other option was to die slowly, quietly, forgotten, and you refused. That's why you're here. That's why this was meant for you. So smash that subscribe button if this voice speaks to that piece of your soul they tried to bury. Hit like if you've ever been underestimated, discarded, disrespected. Because this isn't just a video, this is a war cry, a fire starter, a call to arms for those who've been holding it in for far too long. You were never meant to stay silent. You were meant to rise with fury in your lungs and shadows on your heels. The time is now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. You see, they thought you were weak because you were quiet, because you were healing, because you were patient, because you played it smart. They mistook your silence for surrender, your stillness for defeat. But what they didn't see was that you were watching, waiting, calculating every inch of that battlefield. While they were throwing punches, you were counting their steps. While they celebrated, you were loading your arsenal. And then you moved, swift, cold, brutal, efficient. Not with rage, but with purpose. Precision. They never even saw it coming. You were the shadow in their blind spot, the reckoning they laughed at until it stood right in front of them, staring dead into their souls. That's what they never understood. Pain doesn't make you weak. It carves you into something no one sees coming until it's far too late. And by the time they realized it, you had already flipped the board and burned the rule book. Hell isn't fire. It isn't red. It doesn't have horns and pitchforks. Hell is waking up every day with the memory of what they did to you. Hell is reliving the betrayal, the disrespect, the failure over and over again. Hell is surviving it every single time. Until one day you stopped surviving and started hunting. You learned to wear your scars like armor, to sharpen your silence into a blade, to turn your rage into fuel. And when you finally moved, you didn't walk in like a victim. You exploded in like a goddamn war machine. That's what they weren't ready for. That's what they never see coming. You're not the same person they hurt. That person is dead. You killed them. And now they face something worse, something colder, something true. You don't owe the world your pain story. You don't owe them your tears. You owe them silence and a front row seat to the aftermath. Let them watch what happens when someone like you finally stops holding back. Let them feel the weight of your presence when you walk into the room. Not loud, not arrogant, dangerous. Because you've been quiet for too long. You've been holding back the beast inside, the one that keeps whispering, "Let me loose." And you finally listened. You let go. And now the world will learn what happens when a soul that's been crushed doesn't die. It evolves. You don't talk anymore. You don't explain. You move. You act. And you burn everything in your path that doesn't bow or break. There's a certain kind of satisfaction in watching the people who counted you out realize you're not just back. You're unstoppable. They thought the pain would finish you. It fed you. They thought the isolation would break you. It focused you. They thought they were playing chess. You were playing something much darker. You weren't looking to win. You were looking to destroy, to make a statement. That every ounce of suffering they threw at you was turned into momentum. That every time they laughed, you sharpened your knives. That every time they looked away, you were building a throne. A throne made of every insult, every rejection, every failure. And now you sit on it like a king, made of vengeance and flame. And you don't need anyone's validation. You don't need applause. You don't need them to understand what made you. That was never the point. You're not here to explain your scars. You're here to bury those who gave them to you. You're not here to play nice. You're here to remind the world that power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it walks in silently and tears everything apart with nothing but a look. That's you now, a walking consequence. The ghost they thought they buried, now risen and dragging hell behind you. The trap they set, you saw it coming because you've been in traps before. You've lived inside them. But you didn't panic. You didn't scream. You waited. You smiled. And when the timing was right, you turned that trap into a coffin. Theirs. They wanted to watch you fall. Now they get to watch you rise. Unbothered, untouched, unforgiving. You move like someone who's lost everything and learn that the only way to survive is to stop playing by their rules. You make your own. You build your own path through the ashes of what they tried to destroy. And now every step you take is a reminder. You can't kill what was born in fire. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about legacy. It's about sending a message to every shadow that ever tried to drown your light, that not only did you survive, you thrived. You became a weapon. You became the storm they swore would never come. You are the reckoning, and you don't wait for permission anymore. You take. You conquer. You turn every no into fuel, every loss into fire, every betrayal into thunder. You don't need a crown to be king. You already earned one made of bone and silence and rage, and they know it. That's why they fear you now, because nothing terrifies the wicked like the return of the one they couldn't kill. So keep going. Don't look back. Don't wait for applause. Let them talk. Let them lie. Let them pretend they never doubted you. Let them act like they believed in you the whole time. You'll know the truth. You'll remember every look, every laugh, every time they turned their back. And you'll keep moving anyway, because this war isn't over. And hell is just getting started. You've unleashed something they can't contain, something they never understood, something that doesn't stop. And when they ask, how'd you spot the trap so fast? Smile, because the truth is, you built it for them. While they were planning your end, you were designing their lesson. And now they get to learn it the hard way. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rise to destroy, to rebuild. And now that you've embraced who you are, there's no going back. You are the fire, the steel, the hammer that breaks the chain. You are what happens when pain turns into purpose, when silence becomes strategy, when darkness becomes a throne. You are hell unleashed, and they weren't ready. They weren't ready for your silence. That's what scares them the most now. Not the volume of your rage, not the violence of your retaliation, but the silence that walks ahead of you like a funeral procession. Cold, calculated, controlled. You're not swinging wild anymore. You're striking with purpose. They can't track your moves because you're not playing their game. You're rewriting the rules every time you breathe. And now the question isn't whether you'll win, it's how far you'll go. How deep you're willing to dig into that black fire burning inside your ribs, the one they've been feeding without realizing it. Every doubt they threw at you became a stepping stone. Every insult, a reminder. Every betrayal, a spark. And now, here you are, a storm made of all their sins. You didn't just survive hell, you became it. They wanted you to be emotional, to break down, to lash out, because that's what people expect from the broken. Chaos. But you're not broken. You're focused. You didn't collapse. You evolved. And that evolution, it's not pretty. It's not poetic. It's terrifying. You walk like vengeance in slow motion. You speak like thunder wrapped in ice. You look them in the eyes, not to plead, not to explain, but to warn. Because the person they tried to destroy was soft. That version is gone. You are not here to explain yourself. You are here to collect what you were owed, not just power. Respect. The kind that can't be given, only taken. The truth is, you saw it all coming. The fake friends, the snakes in the grass, the quiet envy behind false smiles. You played dumb. You let them laugh. You let them think you were slipping. You watched them tighten the noose, not knowing you were untangling every knot they made. You weren't falling behind. You were falling back, so they'd lean in just close enough to feel your teeth. You played the long game. And now their fear is justified. Now their paranoia isn't a lie. You are coming, but not for revenge. That's too small, too cheap. No, you're coming for something far deeper, for dominance, for legacy, for silence. Because when the dust settles, when the screams fade, when the smoke clears, your name will be the one they remember. Not because you were loud, not because you begged, but because you moved like a ghost they couldn't outrun. You became the warning they didn't listen to, the prophecy they laughed at, the whisper in the dark that kept coming. You don't have to yell anymore. They hear you. Every step you take shakes their foundations. Every time you speak, the room goes quiet. Because they know what you've been holding back. And now that you've let it out, there's no putting it back in the cage. You were never soft. You were strategic. You were never weak. Just patient. And when it all went quiet, when they thought they won, you were there, still breathing, still watching, still building. You didn't want the spotlight. You wanted the whole damn stage. And now that you have it, you don't dance for them. You burn the floor. You walk like judgment in flesh, like a reckoning wearing skin. You didn't come back to prove them wrong. You came back to prove yourself right. Because deep down, through every scar and crack and broken rib, you always knew you were never the prey. You were the goddamn trap. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them pretend they never doubted you, never laughed, never turned their back. Because you remember, you never forgot. And you don't need to remind them. Your presence does that for you. Every win, every quiet move, every calm look in the face of chaos. You are a monument to everything they couldn't kill. A statue carved in fury and grief and willpower. And you don't apologize for what you've become. Because what you are now, that's what happens when a soul refuses to break. You're not a story, you're a lesson. You're a warning sign in blood and silence and fire. They thought the worst thing that could happen was you failing. They were wrong. The worst thing was you learning to stay quiet, learning to move smart, learning to channel your pain into power. And now they're not fighting the old you. They're facing the reboot, the version with no limits, no leash, no mercy. And when they ask, how did you know? How did you see it coming? Tell them the truth. Tell them you've lived in the dark, you've studied betrayal, you've memorized every step of manipulation. So when they tried to trap you, all they did was walk into the one you built for them. You don't just walk into a room anymore. You shift the energy. You don't have to say a word. People feel you, like a blade drawn just below the surface, like a storm waiting to hit. And when the liars speak, you don't argue. You smile, because you already know how it ends. Not with their applause, not with validation, but with you standing tall in the rubble of everything they tried to use against you. This isn't about ego. This is about truth. And the truth is, they never had a chance, not once, because you were never theirs to control, never meant to bow, never wired to break. You are what they call when they need something done right, and they hate it. They hate that the one they tried to bury is now the one calling the shots. They hate that you know how they think, that you see their moves 3 steps ahead, that your silence is a sword they can't stop swinging at themselves. You move like someone who's lost everything and came back with fire in your blood. And the best part? You don't need to hurt them. They'll hurt themselves trying to outpace you, trying to copy you, trying to be you, because there's no armor for a mind forged in fire. And you're pure molten steel. They weren't ready, and they'll never be, because you're not here to play anymore. You're here to dominate, not with noise, with presence, not with chaos, with precision. You are the storm they swore would never come, the flood behind the dam they thought would never break. And now, there's no going back. You are the consequence. You are the reckoning. You are the storm in human form, and they just realized they unleashed it themselves. You've been patient long enough. You've stayed quiet long enough. You've watched from the shadows, studied the game, sharpened your weapons in the dark long enough. Now you move, not to prove, but to take. Everything they said you couldn't have, everything they tried to deny you, you take it now, and you don't stop. Because now they know what it feels like to be hunted by something they thought they could control. You are the warning they ignored, and your silence? That's not peace. That's the last calm before the end. And the end is here. They thought you were finished, but what they didn't know was that every ending they imagined for you was just the prologue to a new chapter. You didn't break under the weight of their expectations. You bent like steel forged in the hottest flames. And every time you bent, you absorbed their venom, their doubt, their cruelty, and you turned it into fuel. fuel that burns hotter than any hatred they could throw your way. Now you're walking proof that pain is not the end. Pain is a beginning. It's the blackened soil from which the strongest roots grow, the pressure that shapes diamonds out of dust. You are that diamond, sharp and cold and unbreakable, and they can't stand it, because deep down, they know that no matter how hard they try, no matter how many traps they set, they'll never hold down what refuses to be caged. You unleashed hell not just on them, but on every part of yourself that whispered you weren't enough. Every voice inside that told you to quit, to fold, to fade away quietly. You showed that voice the meaning of relentless. You turned your inner darkness into your fiercest weapon. And now the fire inside you is a warning flare for everyone who dares to stand in your way. You don't need a crowd to cheer you on. You don't need validation from the doubters or the haters. You are your own storm, your own reckoning, your own salvation, and your own damnation, all rolled into one unstoppable force. And the truth? That power is terrifying. Not because it's loud, but because it's undeniable, because it's real. And you wear it like a crown forged in the ashes of everything they tried to take from you. They weren't ready because they never saw it coming. They never imagined that the broken one would become the weapon, that the lost one would become the leader, that the one they tried to silence would become the loudest roar in the room. You aren't just a survivor. You're a conqueror, a hunter, a ghost that haunts their dreams, and a nightmare that walks in broad daylight. They wanted a fair fight, but you don't do fair. You do final. You don't just strike back. You erase the battlefield. You don't just win. You destroy the possibility of ever losing again. Because that's what happens when you unleash hell. You don't hold back. You don't second guess. You don't stop until there's nothing left but silence, and your victory standing tall like a monument to all they ever underestimated. And you didn't get here by luck or chance. You got here by grit, by grinding through the pain, by never accepting no as an answer. You built this hell fire in your veins, fed it with your tears, and polished it with every scar. Every scar tells a story, not of defeat, but of domination. Every scar is a trophy from a battle they thought they won, but you took back. You're not just a survivor of hell, you're the lord of it. You walk through fire and come out blazing, and you don't care who tries to stop you, because your destiny isn't to play small. It's to take what's yours by force, to demand respect not through words, but through presence, to turn every "you can't" into "watch me." That's why they fear you now, because you're proof that hell is not a place, it's a mindset, and you've mastered it. Every time you hear that voice in your head whisper, "Give up, it's too hard, you're not strong enough," you shout back louder, "Watch me." Because you are strong enough, you are fierce enough, you are relentless enough. You carry a fire in your chest that refuses to be extinguished, a hunger for more that they'll never understand. And this fire is a beacon for those who have been beaten down, silenced, ignored. A warning and an inspiration all in one. You've become a living testament to the fact that hell isn't a prison. It's a forge, and anyone who tries to cage you will find themselves consumed by the flames they lit. So keep moving forward, keep sharpening that edge, keep standing tall in the face of every doubt and every sneer. Because you don't just walk through hell, you own it. And the world is only beginning to understand what it means to face someone like you. Someone who's been broken, bent, and rebuilt stronger than ever before. Someone who doesn't ask for mercy because they don't want it. Someone who doesn't wait for permission because they take it. They weren't ready for you, They still aren't. But the question is, are you ready for what comes next? Hell was just the beginning.